First time I've set up the hammock. I have no idea if I did it correctly. I hope it doesn't come crashing down tonight. I never did Boy Scouts, I only know a few basic knots. I think this is a good spot. I mean, kind of got shelter here, kind of undercover. I think it's kind of stealthy, but who knows? No fucking idea. I've never done this before. I've walked long distances and stealth camped in a tent, but not in a hammock. So yeah, I'm just trying to chill. Getting into the hammock's interesting. I think it's going to take a bit of getting used to. And we went out of lockdown yesterday, so it's nice to know I'm only breaking normal laws, not COVID laws. Because you can kind of morally justify breaking the normal laws about camping and stealth camping and all that kind of shit. But it's a bit different when there's a COVID outbreak. Anyway, feeling pretty weird, to be honest. Like, I've got this big journey ahead of me and I'm completely in two minds about everything. It's weird. I really don't know what to say. Not sure if you can see me, I'm lighting up my face with my phone because the torch is rolling around somewhere in here, but I've just been sort of staring out. You probably can't see anything, but staring out at the moonlit clouds above the ocean. It's a little bit cold, but it's not too bad. Oh, yeah, you can see my breath. So I set off today and I'm going to keep heading up the coast. It's an adventure. I thought it would be scary, but I just feel really cozy. Sometimes you need to reset, and I was feeling a bit despairing and over the top in my head, being very negative, being a bit rude to my mum. And I didn't intend to stay at mum's for very long anyway, but we went into lockdown and today we came out of lockdown, so I'm on an adventure now. Gonna walk up the coast, see where we wind up. It's very relaxing here. I've already slept for about 3 hours. Had a really nice sleep and I woke up and thought, alright, I'm ready to go. Wonder what time it is. I turn on my phone, it's only 9:30 p.m. I've been lying in here for 12 hours. I'll get up soon and pack it all up, but it's just so fucking cold. Other than for the fact it is extremely cold, this is pretty good. if this is the stealthiest spot, but there's any people around. Closest trail is about 200 meters down that way. And people lost me, but most people don't give a shit. I hope most people don't give a shit. It's gonna get cold tonight. It's always cold near the beach. It's like sleeping next to a huge air conditioner. But it's nice because it's paradise life, beach life. I'm just gonna look for some rocks to keep the tent pegs down, because one big gust of wind and they could just blow right out.
I'm picking out a mushroom cloud, drinking vodka from the train. Everybody crowd around the spectacle of rising flame.
So I swapped the tent for the hammock. The hammock's good, it's nice. I slept well in it, but it's just too cold at this time of year. It's definitely a summer thing. I mean, I had 2 sleeping bags the other night and I woke up freezing. Yeah, that tent's it's gonna blow if I don't find some rocks or something to hold it down, maybe a big log or something. It's just that when it gets windy here, it gets really windy. I'll be putting all this on before I properly go to bed, because it gets so fucking cold. Okay, so I don't have a sleeping mat. Instead, I put this down. I was sleeping directly on the ground. And when I was in the hammock, there was just a thin bit of fabric, of plastic, separating me from the air. It gets super, super, super cold. But this makes like a bit of insulation from the ground. This sleeping bag. And this sleeping bag here is supposed to be -2 degree lower limit. And in extreme situations, -18 degrees. But I must be a really cold sleeper, because it only gets down to about 5 or 6 degrees centigrade and I freeze. I'm doing this partly to get myself used to camping and being outside and living rent-free, and partly because there's something kind of healing about it, I guess. It's good for your brain, good for your body. When I was in year 2, when I was 7, we went on a school camp out near Canberra into the mountains. I think it was the middle of winter too. And I was in this tent with 5 other boys, and we were all just side by side. It was freezing, freezing, freezing cold. And I had to go to the toilet in the middle of the night. And I got up and I couldn't undo the zip. I was stuck in the tent. And I started crying because it was dark and I was claustrophobic and I needed to go to the toilet and I couldn't open the zip. Eventually my mum, who was on the camp, came and opened the zip for me. When I got back in the tent, all the other boys wet the bed. Every single one of them. I was the only one who got up and went to the toilet. It sucked. It's not a horror story, but made me never want to be in a tent again. Then when I was 15, I was on a school camp and I had my first panic attack in a tent. So I don't have the best associations with tents, but I'm changing that. Because if it means I can live without spending money, if I get used to it enough, I could even start a business or start doing other stuff from living in a tent. My plan isn't to be your typical homeless person. I'm actually doing this because I want to completely get clean, and I just can't when I'm at mum's because we just have too much fun, you know, partying. It's just the way it is. My suspicion is that there's rocks way up there. It's a long way to go. Hope I can find the tent again. The thing about living this life is it's almost impossible to really be too depressed because you've got too much to organise. You kind of got to be on the ball. And I find it hard to stay depressed when I'm outside in the sun. I mean, even when there's a storm, even when there's heavy winds, even when the weather goes terrible, it's not depressing. It can be scary, it can be thrilling. Sometimes it can fill you full of despair, but I think that's different to that kind of brain dead flat feeling that I get living in a house, spending most of my money on rent, dealing with other people's kind of neuroses. Out here I can just deal with my own neuroses and hopefully become a better person. It's so hard to get a place these days anyway. And I think my time and energy is better spent elsewhere. Doing housing applications, turning up to inspect places with 80 other people, most of whom are full-time employed, and they still get rejected. You do that enough times, you start to think that you're just not allowed to have a home in this society. You know, physically and verbally abused by angry housemates. That has happened. Rocks on a beach, do they even exist? Starring Duke the Dirtbag, looking for rocks on a beach. Basically, my goal is to get comfortable with discomfort. Once you can feel comfortable in situations that 99% of people find uncomfortable, you can kind of do anything. You could live anywhere. You could achieve great things. Logs are gonna have to do. think the advantage of the tent is that you kind of feel like you have a place. You kind of feel like you're secure, even though that it's all that's protecting you is just this flimsy tarp. It's still there's sort of privacy in a tent. I think people are less likely, if someone stumbles upon you, they're less likely to come up and suss you out. Whereas when you're in a hammock, really, you're out in the open. You've got your little canopy above it, but you know, and that's an advantage as well of the tarp, especially in summer. But I find the design of the hammock really strange because the opening to get in is actually in the floor. So you climb up through a Velcro zip, and then when you get in, it kind of just closes by itself because of the tension of when you lie in it. But that's really difficult to get in and out of, especially at night if you need to take a piss, because you've set up your blankets or sleeping bag, and you actually have to move everything to get out. And then when you get back in, it's really hard to get organised again, to get comfortable again. And I made the mistake of eating a watermelon before I went to bed. I had to piss 4 times, and every time I couldn't get back in the same position that I'd gotten comfortable in previously. And it got really, really cold. I had 2 sleeping bags and I was freezing. So it's cold in a tent as well, but at least you kind of can put down, a sleeping mat, or I put down the sleeping bag and folded it, and then slept in a sleeping bag on top of that. So that was kind of comfortable. But generally, I would say the hammock would be good for summer. It's very lightweight, only weighs a kilogram. If I was going on a big trek, which I'm probably going to do, I'm just sort of practicing going on these 1 or 2 nighters out and about on the south coast here. But if I was going on a big trek, I'd probably actually take both, because there's situations where a tent would be better, especially if you're planning staying somewhere a little bit longer, or if in the morning you wanted to go on a run or go and explore, you can keep all your stuff in a tent. And as I say, I think people are less likely to suss out a tent or break into a tent because there might be someone in there, whereas the hammock, it's pretty obvious if you've left your bag and everything in there, and people walk past and can just see straight in. So there's more privacy in a tent, and it's probably easier to set up a tent, but I don't know, that depends. It's just you need to have 2 trees to hang the hammock. And the advantage is that is if you can't find flat ground, you can still usually find 2 trees you can hang it on. But the disadvantage is when you can't find 2 trees. And there's lots of nice places you can camp in a tent, like on the dunes behind the beach. But in the hammock, you'd have to walk into the scrub, and often it's too much foliage on the ground and stuff to really get comfortable or find somewhere. And you can't really keep your big bag and all your stuff in the hammock with you. You have to put it on the ground beneath the hammock, and it just feels a little bit, I don't know, just doesn't feel quite as secure. So I'd say tent wins, I reckon. But the hammock will be fun, especially in the warmer months. So yeah, thanks for watching. I'm Duke the Dirtbag. We'll be running a lot this week. I haven't run as much because I've been basically getting stronger by carrying the backpack and trying to get more versatile with camping and things that I don't particularly have a natural affinity towards. But this week I'm going to just stay at mum's mostly so I can go running, and I've also got a lot of things I need to organise. I might be just making plans, I guess. Trying to improve my lot in life. So, peace out.